Hi, how's it going? Okay, so I got a phone call right before I started this. I'm a little bit late, but hey, welcome. All right, so I wanted to come on and do some cooking with everybody. I get a bunch of free food at this food giveaway that they have every week in my area. And this was a bunch of milk that I couldn't drink. It was going to go bad. And so I'm trying to make cheese with it. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it. I was trying to make this really cute so you can see the background. I have like a little mini forest out there. All my little trees and my little bonsai trees are out there. Hi, Tony. But it really just is kind of backlit. So, anyways, this is what you're getting. Okay, so I'm going to be cooking. Oh, I don't have my microphone down. All right, so I'm going to be cooking some meatloaf. And I make my meatloaf with rice because I have allergies and anything that's highly processed makes me have just terrible allergies. So um, I already cooked my rice and I use a rice cooker. So I have a rice cooker and then a slow cooker. And actually, Tony, I decided to make beans just because I had mentioned them to you this morning. And I thought, hey, what a good time to cook some beans. So, actually, right back there is my slow cooker, and my rice cooker is right behind that. So, I always try to make leftovers from uh, leftovers. So, like what I make for one night's meal, I try to make and incorporate into breakfast for the next day's meal. See, Tony, I would have so much food for you if you lived nearby because seriously, we get so much food that I sometimes just end up composting a lot of it. So, this is one of my favorite meatloafs. My one of my friends taught me, and so if you don't can't eat gluten, having the rice as a filler is a great option. So I use 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef, and I'm using some elk burger. Billy's family is all very big hunters, and so we always get a little bit of elk meat. And the elk meat is very, very dark. Look at that compared to the beef. And then I'm also going to use some bratwurst sausage. So you can use any three meats. I've tried it with all kinds of different kinds of meats. Pork sausage. I've used um, whatever. Just give it variety. It doesn't matter what three meats you've used. I've used bison, lamb, all kinds of stuff. And so another thing that I do with my rice when I make rice is I take the leftover rice and the next day I'll make what I call ricey eggs. And an Asian friend of mine taught this to me. And you just take and scramble about maybe like 5 or 6 eggs, and you just have a hot skillet and put a little bit of oil or butter in the skillet, and on about medium high or medium, you just cook, a couple cups of cooked and cold rice and your eggs. And then if I was doing like this in the morning, I would add maybe a little bit of my meatloaf into my ricey eggs and maybe a little bit of veg if I had any veggies the night before. And yeah, pretty simple. Even just the eggs and rice is pretty yummy together. And my kids love it. They call it ricey eggs. Sometimes they put sour cream on it or add a little bit of salsa and sour cream. So, all right, here's my three meats. And I don't like a really tomato saucy um, meatloaf, but I am going to use some whole peeled tomatoes and a little bit of Parmesan and two eggs. So let's see, I'll put the eggs in there. And I got to go get my rice out of the freezer. So hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. Hey, on the level, how's it going? Thanks for joining me and my cooking adventure. Okay, so we're going to talk about the beans. So I put the beans soaking in a lot of water. I cover them, with quite a bit of water. And I put baking soda in there and I let them soak usually overnight, but I'm letting them soak all day today in that baking soda water. And what that's going to do is pull out all of the gases in the beans so that beans aren't quite as tough on your system. I think I might drain the liquid out of this. So anyway, so yeah, I'm doing the soak. And then tomorrow morning, I'll rinse the beans off and I'll re-add water and add just a little bit of cumin. Cumin is the secret ingredient. Now, I learned how to make refried beans literally from these sweet little old ladies in Mexico when I was down there. And yeah, I mean, it is. And cumin is the main thing. I also add cumin to my chili whenever I'm making a 3-bean chili. And then if you just put it on your slow cooker on low and just cook those beans all day long, add a little bit of salt. If you've over salted in the past, you can, I usually just salt. My first salting is just like how much I would put on a plate if I was salting, a personal plate, even for a whole pot of beans, because you can always add salt later, but it's good just to add a little bit of salt to every layer of food. And Tony, I did not learn to cook from my mom. I was the worst cook. Terrible. I was like the worst cook. Everything in my early 20s that I tried to cook ended up just terrible. I couldn't figure out spices. And I'm just going to add a little bit of cheese there. Parmesan's a nice dry cheese. If you add cheddar, it can get kind of oily. So, anyways, I just want to share my little cooking journey as I cook, because my mom, she was a great mom and she cooked a lot of from like the packets, like seasoning packets. You know how you go down and they'll have taco seasoning and spaghetti seasoning. Well, that was the aisle that my mom got all her meal ideas from. And so I think that was all I learned to cook was like spaghetti from a packet. Ah! I just squirted all this tomato all over me. She taught me how to make French toast, lasagna, spaghetti. I think that's about it. Oh, beef stroganoff. But yeah, I didn't know how to cook anything. And I was working down in Mexico one time at this orphanage and they needed somebody to cook in the kitchen. And I was like, well, I sure don't know how to cook. But I thought, you know what, Lord, I know I could cook. And so I just prayed. I said, hey, if they need me, I'm going to just tell them that I can cook. And Lord, I trust that you're going to help teach me and not make all these poor little orphans and sweet, workers suffer because I'm a terrible cook. So they put me on the schedule after I volunteered. And the very first day, remember I said my mom taught me how to make French toast and lasagna and beef stroganoff and spaghetti. Well, the first day that I got put in the kitchen at this orphanage, I had French toast for breakfast and lasagna for dinner. So it was just like the Lord was just showing me that, like, you know, he's going to show us slowly. He's going to teach us slowly. He's going to take us right from where we're at, and he's going to lead us to glory, from glory to greater glory. So I know you might have failed in the past at cooking. I failed a lot myself, but the Lord it's never too late to learn something new. So I'm going to wash my hands really quick. And got to add some salt and pepper. And I'm not sure what seasoning people usually add. But I just like to go simple. Just some salt. And pepper. I got my eggs, cheese, and then I'm going to get my rice in here and got the tomatoes, and that's it. If I have mushrooms, I sometimes like to add mushrooms, but my kids don't like the mushrooms. So we got a mushroom-free meatloaf today. And this meatloaf, I always make a lot because I send leftovers with my husband to work for lunch, and you can slice this up and make sandwiches with it the next day. It's really good. I'm a great cook. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like cooking is something that some people just aren't taught. We grew up in a more modern time where people are using modern conveniences instead of doing things the long, hard way. But beans, if you can master beans and rice, and I love my rice cooker, I'm not sure what that means, Tony. I've got a short memory. Oh, no desire at all to cook? Well, I understand that too. I had a really hard time cooking when I was really depressed. So I get that. But you need to eat, and everybody needs to eat, and breaking bread is a part of our social. I think it's a big part of what the Bible wants us to have in fellowship, breaking of bread together. So I just think you do need to eat. You do need to eat, my friend. And I definitely have had a much easier time cooking since I've been married and have somebody to share it with. So, but yeah, I mean, this is looking pretty good to me. And I was going to share some really cool scripture so this is what I've been thinking about. And Tony, I'd love to hear, or on the level, if you've got any opinions, love to hear what you got to say. Okay, so I have been looking in scripture for like entertainment, like comedy, like what does the Bible say? Because I mean, I sort of feel like I'm almost like addicted to comedy. And like the past few years, the stand-up comedy material is like horrifying. Like I don't feel, you know, I see how the enemy uses comedy to mock God, mock Jesus, mock Christians, mock truth, pretty much just anything they want everybody else to laugh at. Um and so I was just kind of pondering on, you know, like just these things, entertainment, imagination. And so, anyways, I was going to read a verse once I get this meatloaf done. What time is it? Oh, it's only like 4. Oh, it's almost, oh, it's 10 after 4 here. All right. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done. This is the meatloaf. And we're going to loaf it up. And there's a lot of fat in the ground beef. So it shouldn't have any problem not sticking to this. So I'm just going to put it right in the pan. And I try to push it down really good to get any air bubbles out so that it is more like a loaf and doesn't kind of crumble. If you don't pack it down, it'll sometimes kind of be crumbly. And then look, I'm going to make a little pan loaf. A mini loaf. They feel special when I make them their own. Mini meatloaf. A working oven? Oh no. Hey, do you have a barbecue? You could also make it on a barbecue. Yeah, I think toaster might work. I don't see why not. Especially if you use like these little teeny tiny loaf pans. It would definitely work. I like meatloaf. Tried so many times, always falls apart. Oh! Okay, so if it falls apart, you have to add a couple eggs as a binder. So the eggs is what's going to bind it all together. And then the rice. Maybe try the rice. Rice is very cheap. You can get rice free at a lot of food pantries. And yeah, and any food that I don't eat that I got from the pantry, I try to give away to people around me, to friends, but still ended up as garbage. Oh, Tony. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Tried the eggs. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe it was the meat. It definitely wasn't your fault. It had to be the meat. We'll blame it on the meat, Tony. On the level. Oh, and what did you say a second ago? Did you say everything you make in a frying pan? Oh, wow. That's crazy. I use the oven all the time. I make one of my favorite things to make is roasted veggies or roasted potatoes in the oven and just put them on 350 for an hour or whatever. And yeah, they come out so good. If it's veggies, it can be anywhere from like 20, 30 minutes to an hour. What's up, Jess? How's it going? Making my world famous meatloaf. Let me wash my meaty hands. But yeah, I would cry if I didn't have an oven. Oh my gosh. Because, yeah, roasted veg and roasted potatoes, just throw them in the oven. I only put olive oil, salt, pepper, and rosemary on my potatoes and just chop them up in like bite sized pieces, mix it all together, and I throw them in there for like about an hour. All right, 1 second. Okay. All right, so I'm not quite ready to cook these. My kids are at this after school program, and I'm picking them up in an hour, less than an hour. And then I got to come back and throw these in the oven. So I'm just going to wrap them in saran wrap and put them in the fridge for now. Ooh. Okay. And one more. All right. And put these in the fridge. Ah! Oops. 1 second here, folks. Okay. I'm back. And I don't know, Jess, did you see my little mini forest over here outside? You're you should not go hungry. So yeah, beyond those chairs is all my little forest of trees. I save little mini trees from the forest and either turn them into bonsais or just let them grow. Jess is freezing, it looks like. How to tell if a man is married, he is not skin and bones. I know. I always heard that it is the job of a good wife to fatten up her husband. So but hey, I know that beans and rice are a whole protein. And so I just wanted to show you what I do because man, when you make refried beans from scratch, and you always do about up to here water over the beans, and that's after you've soaked them. So I'll soak them overnight and soak them overnight in that baking soda, and they almost double in size. And then I'll rinse them out really good the next morning and put water in about up to here, about up to my knuckle over the beans. So the water will be over the beans about that much. Um, and then if you have any cheap pieces of meat like ham hocks or anything like that, you can throw that in there and have a great pork and beans. And it's really delicious. I mean, it's because I take advantage of all of this free food. I mean, we definitely wouldn't be able to afford the grocery prices, but I mean, I've gotten made butter from some of the cream that they gave me, and I don't even know what I'm doing with this. I've never made cheese before. I think I need to strain it somehow out of the way, but I'm not sure like at what point. It definitely is a chunk of cheese in there, but yeah, that's that free milk. So, anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share my cooking time with you. I've got to go. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah. So thanks for tuning in, and may you have a happy rest of your evening. It was good to see you. Much love, Tony. And I am praying that the Lord brings you a helpmeet very soon. And just remember that if He didn't want to give us land of the living, we would have despaired unto death. So just always never give up hope. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Much love and God bless. Mwah.